Second chances are not given to make things right, but are given to prove that we could be better even after we fall. Are you happy with your life as it is? Or do you regret things? Would you change them if you could have a second chance? Before I start getting into the backstory, there are a few things I need to address. One, I'll be referring to Nephy in two ways, since we have a previous life Nephy and a current Nephy. Previous life Nephy will be Nephros and current life will be Nephy, just to make things easier. Second, the story of this character and his partner have been written by a friend and me, so half of the credit goes to Caithlynn on Twitter and webtoon/tapas, the creator behind Colors of My Canvas. Link, of course, in my bio. I really recommend you read this comic. It's absolutely beautiful and I'm crying already. Third, Nephy is a D&D character. His build is a Thiefling Archfey Warlock. Due to having quite a big backstory as a player that currently is playing him in a D&D campaign, I decided to cut a bit of a part of his backstory to make fitting him in simpler to the DM, which is why technically speaking he's both a regular OC you could write a singular story about and D&D OC, I guess. Like I said, it's just to simplify things and not make him over convoluted, since the main story is supposed to be in the D&D campaign. Please be aware that there might be spoilers if we are currently in the same party and I'm playing Nephy, just in case somebody of the group is watching. Yeah, let's get into it. Ever since he could remember, Nephros had been an orphan, an outcast, bound to walk endlessly, trying to steal, barter, or beg, just to survive that day. Somehow, he at a comparatively young age has stepped upon the Feywild, a chaotic plane that in every aspect is considered weird. Accidentally, the little tiefling stumbles upon a temple. Noticing the many treasures that are inside, Nephros was excited. So much that he could sell, so much money it could earn him. He could survive for years and live lavishly as well. What he didn't know, that there was someone inside. Illya, a small, high elven child, had been locked up in a temple for a while now. Not because they did anything, no. Being locked up in a temple had become routine for them at this point. Illya was suffering from a painful sickness back then. What it was anyone's guess. Some theorized it was magical, but what they all believed was that it could bring great change to their little society out in the Feywild. Thus, Illya needed to be sheltered. Both Illya and Nephros encountered each other for the first time that fateful day. As the curious child that Nephros had been, he keeps on asking Illya about themselves and their condition, and learns that it greatly restricts Illya, which is why they haven't been able to go outside very much. Nephros decides to tell him stories about the outside, and quickly a bond forms between them. Even though Nephros has to leave every day to not get caught sneaking into the temple, he finds himself strangely attached to this young elven child. One time, Nephros learns about the goal of the High Elves, to sacrifice Illya for their own gains. Nephros, who had no one else besides Illya, couldn't lose them. It would have destroyed him. And so Illya and Nephros run away. With Illya still being weak, Nephros works hard to keep them alive, with everything he can. The more desperate he gets, the more wild his actions get, until he realizes how valuable assets are. He forms his own cult filled with vagabonds and strays that are just as desperate. But as things started to gradually get better, they get worse as well. Nephros becomes overprotective, manipulative, the longer he is the cult leader. With more and more failures, he gets more aggressive towards his underlings, even going so far as killing them as punishment for failure. He needs to find a cure for Illya's sickness. After all, if he loses Illya, he'll be as good as dead. Illya, at this point, has become his one reason to live. He feared all the dreams in which he'd lose them. Every time he started to even think about it, he'd have a panic attack. Not that he showed anyone. And even though he was consumed by fear and anger and desperation, he had his moments of peace, moments in which the world seemed to stop and let the two breathe, until the heroes came knocking at Nephros' doors. He found a way to save Illya on that exact day, or at least one attempt, but he also knew that his life as he lived it before was over. So Nephros did what he could to hide the fact that heroes were at their doors from Illya. Illya, after all, still was in a weakened state from their sickness flaring up. And so Nephros casted the ritual spell in hopes of healing Illya. But when the dust settled, Illya had vanished, and Nephros realized what he had done. What Nephros feared for so long had come true. Illya was gone, and it was all his fault. When the heroes entered the room, they didn't find a villain that was doing evil for evil's sake. They found a tiefling left with only despair and anger, and the one wish to bring Illya back. That night, Nephros died. He could neither escape nor win. Illya did return though. The ritual spell Nephros had casted had turned him into an archfey, a being filled with magic, but it corrupted parts of Illya. Now that they returned, they looked for Nephros, but it's hard to find him in all the rubble of the destroyed house that once was their home. When Illya found Nephros, Illya was in shock. Nephros had lied to them. He had said they would stay together until the end. Illya grew angry, realizing the lies that Nephros had told them to keep them calm and happy. Illya didn't want Nephros to leave. They grabbed what was once the lover, the husband even, and casted a spell. Reincarnation. It didn't matter to them how long it would take, as long as they got their husband back. And this time, they would be the one looking after him, making sure that Nephros would stay by their side forever. When Nephy woke up, they couldn't remember anything but walking through a forest and being found and picked up by two people. Ever since then, the two people had become his parents, taking care of the rascal that was Nephy. Nephy was a wild kid. Some would even say he was radiating with life. But he was still a tiefling boy, and it was obvious to anyone who would look at him that he wasn't born, but adopted. For that, the kids in his town made fun of him. And Nephy bit back, not literally, but by pranking and scaring them. Of course, to the frustrations of his parents, because they needed to stop him. But all in all, Nephy's life was good. Peaceful, quiet. He enjoyed the time he spent with his parents. He learned crocheting and cooking, helped out as often as he could. But the village was too little for him. He wanted to go out, see the world, and that he did. Each year he would come and visit his parents or write a letter. But when he returned home for that year, everything was burned to the ground and destroyed. The little peaceful town, from his memories, was gone. As he was looking through the rubble, desperate to find anyone, there he found one of his parents lying on the ground, dead and burned. a small chain on the ground with a symbol he hadn't seen before. He picked it up. Whatever it was, he had to find out more about it. He buried his parent and laid him to rest, before marching on and eventually meeting the party on their way to Red Lodge. And this is the story of Nephy and Nephros and Illya. It's quite a bit, but I think it's a fun story to explore, especially the relationship with Illya and Nephros, or Nephy. And I'm excited for what's to come, and yeah, who knows, maybe I'll someday play other variations of this character, and I at least won't stop thinking about them, because I just very much love them, and based on the tutorials you apparently do too, which I really appreciate. Yeah, and we even reached 50 followers, which I never imagined we could, but we did. And if I'm a bit silent right now, don't worry about it. I'm currently having an animatic in the works, and this takes a bit of time and a bit of patience, because my laptop isn't like up to date as in standards, but it does work, and I think if I can have it finished by like March or May even, I'll upload it. I'll upload it as soon as possible, of course, but yeah. Alright then, thank you for joining me on this video, and bye bye.